has said in his heart, there is no God.
We've had lots of viewer questions on the subject of alien intelligence. Both Pam and Bowie asked versions of, somewhere in the infinite universe, if intelligent life is watching, is it more advanced than Dara and Brian?
It's actually a good question. I mean, the point about alien life is you have to define what you mean. Are we interested in microbes, or are we interested in civilizations? And I think when we're talking about contacting aliens, you really have to confine yourself, I think, to the Milky Way galaxy. It's clearly true there'll be civilizations out there amongst the galaxies, 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. But they're too far away. So I don't think we'll ever contact a civilization, should they exist, from beyond our galaxy. So think about the Milky Way. We've been looking at it all week, that vast sort of island of, what, 200 billion stars. The evidence is that many of them have planets around them. The current estimate is something like 20 billion Earth-like planets in the Milky Way galaxy. That's 1 in 10 stars that you can see in the sky. That's a lot of homes for life. So if you ask many astronomers, I think the answer tends to be, we're optimistic that there may be civilizations out there, and that's why we do the science you saw in that film, the real science with radio telescopes looking for signals. However, what's interesting is you ask biologists, and they point to the fact that on this planet, the only one we know of to harbour life, it took 4 billion years from the origin of life to the rise of a civilization, for our civilization to emerge, 1/3 of the age of the universe. So that might suggest that whilst life may be common in the form of microbes, and indeed we look for those on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and the idea that it takes so long, or it did here at least, to go from simple life to complex life and then civilization, suggests that we might be a very rare phenomena in the Milky Way galaxy, and therefore I would add a very valuable part of nature indeed, and something that's worth preserving.
And even if we find microbes on Enceladus, let's say, and microbial life, would it be from the same route as we are, or would it have independently emerged?
You mentioned Enceladus, actually. I think we've got a photograph of Enceladus from the Cassini probe that we were discussing last night. So it's a fascinating moon. It's about the size of Wales, so it's a very small moon. But you see at the bottom, at the south pole of Enceladus, there's something interesting happening. There are these jets, which are actually jets of water ice that are erupting from the surface. Those are volcanoes of ice. And that strongly suggests there's liquid water below the surface. And that suggests the conditions that are at least sufficient for life may be present below the surface of that moon. So it's a very beautiful
What
thing.
would be more remarkable if we found microbes there and they were of the same root of life as we are, and may have been seeded from Mars, let's say?
That's an interesting question. I mean, there's a theory called panspermia, which points out that material is spread across the solar system. So, for example, we have Martian meteorites here on Earth. So could there have been an origin of life off the Earth, on Mars perhaps, or on comets or something like that? And could that have been distributed throughout the solar system? We'd have to go to Enceladus to plan to do this, fly through those jets, see if there's anything there, and then you'd check whether the DNA was the same, the biochemistry was the same and such. But I've got a question for you, actually, because I know you were looking earlier at, let's imagine we did, with the radio telescope, contact a civilization. What happens? Is there a protocol?
Yes, there is, and I've read it, and it's a lovely read. It's Article 11 of the Treaty on the Principles Governing the Activities of States and the Exploration and Use of Outer Space, including the Moon and other bodies.
Yes, I've that written down on there.
Yes, no, I learned that off. Don't watch my eyes go side to side. But it's quite interesting, because the gist of it basically is about 8 paragraphs, but the first 4 are, whoa, there, check your results, and check them again and make sure it's definitely eliminate all possible things. Then it gives a list of numbers to call, including...
well, like 0800.
Essentially, there's people you've got to register
Premium
with.
phone
Yeah,
lines.
exactly. Yeah, and like the IAU and these people like the International Astronomy Union and the UN, you've got to call the UN, and then they'll let you announce it. But the big thing on point number 8, the final one, is don't reply. Until everyone else has decided what the reply is going to be, do not reply to contact.
I can see that's sensible for a radio transmission, but what if an alien sort of walks up to you? What do you do?
You shun them. You shun them. Like this. I live in London. We're on the tube. If somebody shuns them, we're used to this. You just don't talk to them.
I don't know why they walk like that.
You northern types are too friendly, but we're quite harsh with that.
The fool has said in his heart, there is no God.